Hey everybody, welcome back to Decks and Bites. Today we are going to be discussing Flesh and Blood. We are going to dive deep into state of the game from the perspective of somebody that's been away for 3 years. So a little backstory about my Flesh and Blood history is that I was able to get in during set 1. I had saw it on YouTube and I thought it was a very interesting concept. It was unlike any other TCG that I had played before. I was fortunate enough to get my hands on a few Ira decks and recruit a couple local friends of mine at the time that play TCGs, and we were able to learn together. More product was released and became available. I was able to get my hands on quite a bit of it and build some decks, kind of went all in. And I was all in on it until Monarch. And at Monarch, I decided with the whole debacle with that I was going to no longer buy any more product, but I was just going to play with my Guardian deck. I did some webcam games and I kind of hung around until finally 2022, I decided that I was just going to walk away from the game completely. At the time, the game wasn't really thriving. There was no shop in my area that really played. Local scene was pretty much non-existent where I was at. And so trying to drive, show up, and maybe somebody else might be there for an event just didn't make sense for me. And so I walked away. Now, I decided to come back during the Haunted, and one of the main reasons that I returned is the reason why I fell in love with the game in the first place is simply due to the mechanics and the variance of it. Some of the immediate changes that I noticed about the game is that it now has more heroes, of course, and more classes, but also just the pure number of players. And the game seems to be in a very healthy. I've had some people that are local to me that have really helped me out. So I'm really appreciated if any of you hear this, you know who you are. I appreciate all of you and helping me out to get back into Flesh and Blood. So one of the things that I think was a challenge and obstacle for Flesh and Blood in the past was simply, number one is it was hard to get product when they didn't have unlimited, but then they released unlimited and there was too much product. It devalued the product. And so there wasn't a lot of interest in the collector side of things. There wasn't a lot of people collecting it. Traditionally, when a product is flooded the market and it's devalued and people tend to steer away from it. But one of the initial things that I noticed immediately and a concern that I had was the cost of entry to get into the game. As someone that had no cards, I had sold my whole collection off. In order to get a top tier deck, it's going to be quite pricey if you haven't been collecting. And that's a huge concern. They've done a lot of different things to try to improve the game. Unfortunately, it just seems like the price is always going to be high if you compare it to other living card games. It's definitely been refreshing to come back, to see so many heroes, so many classes, so many different archetypes, and kind of a different variant depending on your play style and kind of offer a flavor to all players. And so Flesh and Blood has a lot going for it. I think that they've learned from their mistakes of the past, and players like myself that walked away because of frustrations, because of the lack of involvement and just player base, players like me are going to be coming back to the game because it's such a good game. The only negative I have of it currently right now is the price point. Seems very high to me. So if you're somebody that's walked away from Flesh and Blood that maybe thought the game was going to die or have been scared to purchase into it just because of the price point, I would say give it a try. Maybe do what I did. When I came back, I bought a Armory deck. I tried it out. I realized that I really like Dash.io, and I ended up investing into buying the cards to support Dash. Hopefully the next High Seas releases some more cards that can to help out. But I think the game's in an amazing place. I think it's got a bright future. There's nothing that I would say or I'm concerned with right now that looks like the game's going to be slowing down. And I'm really glad that I returned. I think that it was a huge mistake to walk away. I think it was just a perfect time to return simply due to the health of the game and also all of the support, because that's been one of the best things about coming back is the local scene. If I would have had the local scene that I have now 3 years ago, I would have probably never left. I truly think that this is going to be a long-term game, and I think it has a lot of growth potential. And I also like the competitive scene. I think the competitive scene's grown a lot. They offer a lot of different types as far as the skirmish. You have the Pro Tours now, you have the Bottle Hardens, you have Worlds. None of that really was prevalent as much as it is now back 3 years ago. So one of the things that I think is really going for it is the competitive scene. My final thoughts on this is that The foundation of the game hasn't changed, while the gameplay's changed massively, and the mechanics are completely different. It was very much worth it to come back. The game, it has so much to offer. The meta's in a great place, and the local support is very strong. So if you are like me that walked away, I recommend you get back into it. Or if you have an old deck, maybe dust it off, salvage what you can of it, and get back out there. But I think anybody that enjoyed Flesh and Blood before or is looking to get into it, 100% recommend it. I think it's a fantastic TCG, and I think it's here for the long haul. And I'm excited to make more Flesh and Blood content and really dive deeper into the game, but also Dash.io. Let me know below what here you guys are running, maybe some recommendations and advice that you would give to somebody that's coming back after 3 years of being away. But yeah, that's all I got for the day. Thanks. See you on the next one.